Number 7. Haley Cluster. In a video posted to TikTok in November of 2021, an Arizona woman revealed how she'd learned that her husband of 6 years had fathered her best friend's child. The mother of 4, who was referenced under the pseudonym Haley Cluster by many media outlets, made the shocking discovery after noticing a distinct birthmark on the baby's neck. As told in her video, Cluster had been asked to attend the delivery by her best friend and accepted the invitation. She drove the pregnant woman to the hospital and wore the wristband traditionally given to the fathers of the newborns. Cluster even claimed to have given the child her first bath. It wasn't until a few days later that the woman uncovered that it was her own husband who'd helped conceive her best friend's baby. Cluster shared in her TikTok soliloquy that she'd noticed an odd protuberance on the child's neck while she was changing her. The woman immediately recognized it as a hereditary birthmark shared by both her husband and her oldest son. Her best friend admitted to sleeping with her husband upon being confronted with Cluster's revelation. The heartbroken woman reportedly forgave her friend and planned to continue their long-standing friendship. She ultimately filed for divorce from her husband, who'd allegedly cheated on her with at least 30 women over the course of their 6-year marriage. Number 6. Lloyd Renita Thomas and Angelique Williams. On May the 21st of 2015, a woman was fatally stabbed by her best friend during a dispute that had reportedly been centered on where they were to be seated in a taxicab. The 2 individuals involved were aspiring model and mother of 1, Lloyd Renita Thomas, and her best friend of 5 years, Angelique Williams. The women, who were described as inseparable by those familiar with their friendship, shared an apartment in Georgetown, Guyana. Thomas and Williams had traveled with some other acquaintances to the Aracari Resort in West Demerara. On the night of the deadly altercation, the group had left the resort and was searching for a taxi to drive them home. Once a cab was hailed, Thomas and Williams allegedly got in a heated argument regarding the specific seating arrangement inside the vehicle. Williams, who had later revealed to investigators that she was intoxicated when the altercation occurred, reached for a broken bottle and stabbed Thomas in the head and abdomen at least 10 times. By the time that the taxi driver was able to transport the wounded woman to West Demerara Regional Hospital, she'd already succumbed to her injuries. In April of 2017, Williams pleaded guilty to the charge of manslaughter and was ultimately sentenced to 8 years behind bars. She was granted parole after completing a third of her prison term. Number 5. Tylerrix and Dwayne White. An 18-year-old boy from Norfolk, Virginia faced criminal charges following a tragic accident that resulted in the death of his best friend on January the 4th of 2016. Local police were dispatched to the home of Tylerrix at 8:12 p.m. after being alerted to reports of shots fired. Upon arriving at the scene, officers discovered that Dwayne White, aged 15, had suffered a critical gunshot wound. The victim was quickly taken to Centara Norfolk General Hospital, where he ultimately passed away. In the ensuing investigation, detectives learned that the fatal bullet had been discharged accidentally by Rix, who'd reportedly been a very close friend of White's. As Rix recounted during his interviews with the police, the gun involved belonged to his brother, who worked as a security guard. Rix was allegedly attempting to remove the bullets from the weapon when he inadvertently moved the slide and fired a round into his friend moments after he'd walked into the room. The bullet pierced White's right arm before penetrating his chest, hitting his heart and lungs. The medical examiner in charge of the autopsy determined the victim's death to have been an accident, but in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, Rix was formally charged with second-degree murder. The charge was later reduced to involuntary manslaughter, and a Norfolk judge ultimately handed down a suspended 1-year sentence, sparing Rix any jail time. Number 4. Lauren Walsh and Kelsey Gillink. A 22-year-old woman was accused of stabbing her best friend with a kitchen knife during a seemingly random outburst on April the 14th of 2021. Lauren Walsh, a resident of Liverpool, England, had met the victim, Kelsey Gillink, at the nursery where the 2 women worked. Gillink at one point described Walsh as her sister and claimed the 2 were practically joined at the hip. The deadly incident took place at Gillink's residence in Old Swan, after the young woman had reported her debit card as stolen to the authorities. What the mother of one didn't know was Walsh herself had swiped the card and used it to spend nearly $200. While the 2 women were chatting in the kitchen, Walsh allegedly grabbed hold of a knife. She subsequently confronted Gillink, claiming she'd been responsible for the death of her grandmother, who was actually still alive at the time. Walsh then relentlessly stabbed the homeowner at least 17 times. Gillink's partner, Wesley Pemberton, attempted to intervene, but Walsh stabbed him 3 times as well. The assailant then fled the scene barefoot and convinced the van driver that she was the one to have been attacked. While the motorist was driving her to the police station, Walsh abruptly jumped out of the vehicle after announcing she was going to take her own life. She was later remanded into custody and admitted to investigators that she'd stabbed the victims, both of whom survived the brutal and unexpected attack. In December of 2021, Walsh was found guilty on 2 counts of attempted murder. Number 3. Mary Kanye and Naomi Oni. A London woman was jailed for throwing sulfuric acid in her childhood friend's face on December 30th of 2012. The suspect, 21-year-old Mary Kanye, had reportedly grown obsessed with and jealous of her best friend, Naomi Oni, also aged 21. Kanye was said to have begun copying Oni's clothes and appearance. She even attempted to steal the latter's boyfriend, which led to a falling out between the longtime friends in April of 2011. On the night of the horrific assault, Kanye disguised herself in a headscarf and stalked Oni as she left the East London Victoria's Secret store where she worked. Oni was approaching her house in Dagenham, Essex, when Kanye attacked her, splashing concentrated sulfuric acid all over her body. The victim's face was consequently disfigured, her hair and eyelashes were dissolved and her tongue was burned. Kanye rapidly fled the scene and her former BFF was unable to identify her. In the incident's aftermath, Oni described what had happened to Kanye, who prior to being revealed as the attacker, deceptively offered her sympathies in response. The victim required extensive skin grafts to repair the damage caused by the acid, and she ultimately suffered permanent scars to her leg, chest, arms, and stomach. Kanye was sentenced to 12 years behind bars as a consequence of the premeditated attack. Today's topic was requested by Mark Drew. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Cheyenne Wright and Louise Villot. A Brooklyn woman was found guilty of fatally shooting her best friend on June the 15th of 2016. The incident was contextualized by a heated argument within a group of women in the courtyard of the Farragut houses. According to the Brooklyn District Attorney, 29-year-old Cheyenne Wright left the scene during the dispute. She later returned with a handgun and fired 2 rounds in the direction of a crowd that included several children. As investigators gathered from eyewitness testimony, the victim, 29-year-old Louise Villot, had approached the suspect in an attempt to calm her down, as his own children had been among those in the line of fire. Wright began to walk away before she suddenly turned around and fired a 3rd bullet. The projectile hit Villot, whom she'd known since the 2 were young kids, directly in the forehead. The victim was declared brain dead in the immediate aftermath, and he eventually passed away at New York Methodist Hospital 3 days later. Wright gave the murder weapon to her mother, as she'd initially made the decision to try and flee from justice. On June the 21st, however, she willingly gave herself up to the authorities. Wright was charged with 2nd-degree murder, 1st-degree reckless endangerment, and 2nd-degree criminal possession of a weapon. During her appearance in court, Wright attempted to convey her remorse over the tragic incident that had taken the life of her best friend, noting that Villot had been like a brother to her. In February of 2019, she was sentenced to 19 years to life in prison. Number 1. Anel Baez and Arandi Gutierrez. A teenage girl carried out the vicious murder of her best friend in March of 2014 after making death threats against the victim on social media. The 2 friends involved in the tragic incident were 16-year-olds Anel Baez and Arandi Gutierrez, both of whom lived in the city of Guayaquil in western Mexico. The pair reportedly fell out after Baez had uploaded revealing photographs of them to her Facebook profile. According to Mexican news outlets, Gutierrez then began posting threatening messages on Twitter, warning her former best friend that she'd be lucky to survive until the end of the year. On March the 19th of 2014, Baez invited Gutierrez to her home in an attempt to reconcile with a girl she'd previously referred to as her sister. Upon arriving at the residence, Gutierrez requested to use the restroom. It was only meant to be a distraction, as the teen actually went to Baez's kitchen to grab a knife, which she then used to stab her unsuspecting victim a total of 65 times. Gutierrez then fled the scene, leaving Baez to die in a pool of her own blood. She attempted to cover her tracks by participating in the grieving process along with the rest of Baez's friends and loved ones. She was ultimately tracked down by investigators and arrested while she was attending her victim's funeral. In accordance with Mexican law, due to her age, Gutierrez was unable to be charged as an adult. She was therefore tried as a minor and sentenced to 7 years in prison. In September of 2017, she was granted an early release, having only served 3 years of her term. Thanks for watching. Would you rather watch your best friend start dating your ex or learn that you were conceived while your mother was having an affair? Let us know in the comments section below.